She held up the bracelet like it was contaminated, turned to the crowd of cousins, aunts, and family friends, and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "I don't need a cheap, miserable gift like this. My name is Jenna, and from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Because have you ever handed someone something with love, only to be mocked like you dropped trash in their lap?" It was her birthday. I gave her a delicate, engraved bracelet, $500, real gold, wrapped with care. She opened it, took one look, and sneered like I'd insulted her entire bloodline. "Do you think I'm some kind of charity case?" she laughed. "Next time, save your pennies. This isn't high school anymore." People laughed. People I had grown up with. And my parents? They didn't stop her. They didn't say a word. In fact, my mother chuckled and said, "Well, your sister does have expensive taste." No one defended me. Not even once. So I stood there, face hot, smile frozen, throat burning with things I couldn't say. Then I quietly put my coat on, slipped out of the house, and left. Not one person followed. Not even a text. And that's when I realized I was never going to earn their respect by staying small, quiet, and generous. So I stopped explaining, stopped trying, and 2 weeks later, they found out through the grapevine, not from me, that I'd just bought an apartment. In cash. Downtown. Corner unit. Floor-to-ceiling windows. And worth more than everything they'd bragged about at that party, combined. My parents were stunned. My sister? Furious. And I hadn't even moved in yet. Because the thing about silent girls? We don't make noise. We make moves. And the bracelet she mocked? That was just the beginning. They called the next morning. My mother first. Her voice syrup-sweet but stiff. "Jenna, why didn't you tell us about the apartment?" I paused. Because that's what she was asking, not how I was doing, not why I left the party humiliated, just why I didn't give them the chance to gawk. I replied simply, "Because you all made it clear what I was worth." She went silent, then cleared her throat. "You know your sister was just being playful. You shouldn't have taken it so personally." Playful. As if being publicly degraded in front of 50 people was a game I forgot to laugh at. "I didn't," I said. "I took it quietly. Then I took my savings and bought a place where no one could speak to me like that again." Click. One by one, the calls came in. My aunt, my cousin, even my dad, who rarely called unless something broke in the house. "You paid in cash?" That's all he asked. Not "congratulations." Not "I'm proud of you." Just disbelief coated in bitterness. I knew why. Because they'd spent years treating me like the underachiever. The girl with hobbies, not a career. The one who always showed up with thoughtful gifts, but never matched their loud, luxurious flexes. But what they didn't know, while they were busy measuring worth in car brands and vacation photos, I was building equity in silence. Every check I didn't blow on status symbols, it went into that apartment. Every hour they laughed at my little freelance work, it paid for that view. So when my sister texted me 3 days later with, "Where did you get that kind of money? Did someone die or something?" I didn't answer. I just posted a photo to my Instagram story. My keys. The gold bracelet she threw back at me, now hanging on the doorknob of a custom-built closet. Captioned, "You thought it was cheap. I used it to open the next chapter." She left me on read. But I wasn't done. Because if they thought buying the apartment was the climax, they had no idea what was coming next. A week after the photo, the energy shifted. Suddenly, I was interesting to them. Not loved. Not respected. Just rebranded. The sister they once mocked for being too quiet, too modest, too frugal, now had leverage. My cousin Mia called to catch up. Said she always knew I'd do something big. Lies. I remember when she laughed as my sister tossed the bracelet aside like a napkin. But I let her talk. Let her pretend she'd always believed in me. Because now, I was playing a new game. Watch who switches sides the moment they think you have something they want. My sister finally cracked. She showed up at my building. I saw her through the intercom camera, oversized sunglasses, a stiff designer coat, fake smile. "Hey," she said. "Can we talk?" I buzzed her in. Not because I owed her anything. Because I wanted her to see it. The lobby. The elevator.
The view.
The reality she thought I'd never have the guts or brains to create. She walked in, eyes scanning everything, jaw tight. "This place is cute," she said.
Cute.
That's what she said about my last studio apartment. The one with peeling paint and a broken heater. She walked to the kitchen island where I'd left the bracelet. The same one she humiliated me for giving her. "I didn't mean to be rude at my party," she said, not looking at me. "I was drunk. And honestly, I didn't think you'd take it that personally." I leaned against the wall. "You didn't think I'd take it personally because you never thought I mattered." She flinched.
Good.
Because this wasn't about a bracelet. It was about years of being the backup plan, the quiet shadow, the polite daughter who was never invited to shine.
And now?
She was standing in a space I built, without her approval, without my parents' help, without asking anyone to clap. She crossed her arms. "So, what now? You think you're better than us?" I smiled.
No.
"I think I finally stopped needing to be included." She left without saying another word. But I wasn't done, because silence was never weakness.
It was strategy.
And the next move I had planned was going to burn everything they thought they knew about me. 3 days later, I did something no one expected. I invited them all. My parents, my sister, the cousins who laughed, the aunts who whispered behind wine glasses. To dinner, at my apartment. No explanation. Just one line in the invite. "You've had your turn to speak. Now it's mine." They showed up, of course. Curiosity is stronger than guilt. My mother brought a bottle of wine. My father brought silence, and my sister? She brought attitude, dripping in designer labels and fake remorse. The apartment was spotless. Soft jazz played in the background. The table was set, minimal, elegant. But there was no food. Just envelopes. One for each seat. They stared at them, confused. I stood at the head of the table.
Calm. Clear.
"You've all made a lot of assumptions about me," I began. "About who I am, what I earn, what I deserve." No one interrupted. First time in years. I gestured to the envelopes. "Open them." They did.
Inside.
Screenshots of my business revenue. My investment portfolio. The articles I ghostwrote for the publications they idolize. The one-pager for the app one co-founded. And the invoice where I got paid $25,000 for a single brand campaign.
Gasps.
Shuffling. The sound of illusions cracking like glass. My father blinked at the page. "You're a partner in that app? The one that just got funded?" I nodded. "Since day one." My sister clenched her jaw. "So, this is what? Revenge?" "No," I said softly. "This is correction. You labeled me the underachiever. The cheap one. The one who didn't belong." I walked slowly around the table. "But while you were too busy comparing labels and vacations, I was building freedom. Not just to live, but to walk away." I stopped behind my mother. "You taught me to stay quiet, to be polite, to never embarrass family." I leaned closer. "Tonight, I'm breaking all 3 of those rules." I held up the bracelet. "The same one you laughed at? It wasn't just a gift.
It was a test.
And you failed." Dead silence. No one moved. No one laughed. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't begging to be heard. I was being listened to. My sister stood, arms folded, voice tight. "You really think waving money around makes you better than us?" I met her gaze.
No.
"I think finally being respected for what I built is long overdue." She scoffed. "You're still bitter. Still that insecure little girl who always wanted attention." I smiled. Not out of amusement, but peace. "You know what I wanted?"
Space.
To exist without being mocked, corrected, or made smaller, so you could feel big. I turned to the rest of them. Their silence spoke volumes. Years of casual cruelty, passive-aggressive digs, fake praise.
And now?
They couldn't even make eye contact. "I didn't ask you here to brag," I said. "Ask you here to give you one last chance to see me clearly." My father finally spoke. "You never said anything. How are we supposed to know?" I tilted my head. Because every time I did try to speak, you changed the subject back to her. My mother muttered, "That's not fair." But it's true. I cut in. You watched her humiliate me and called it just how she is. You dismissed my work as cute side projects. And when I bought this apartment, you didn't say congratulations, you asked where the money came from. They shrink back in their seats.
Guilty.
But not enough to apologize. Never enough. I walked to the door. Opened it wide. You're free to leave. But if you walk out, you don't get to come back when it's convenient. My sister rolled her eyes and stormed out first. Of course. My parents hesitated. My mother looked like she wanted to speak, to soften, to spin.
But I didn't give her the chance.
I simply said, "You raised me to endure. I taught myself to rise." She left without another word.
The door closed.
The lock clicked. And the silence that followed? It wasn't lonely. It was earned. I poured myself a glass of wine, curled up by the window, and watched the city lights below. They'd called me cheap, small, forgettable, but now they knew. I was the girl who gave gifts from the heart and built empires in the background. The bracelet still gleamed on my desk, not a symbol of shame, a symbol of awakening. The next week, I didn't hear a word from them. No texts, no calls, no sarcastic voice notes disguised as checking in. And it felt clean, like finally stepping out of a room that had reeked for years, but you were too polite to say it out loud. I went to work, closed a new brand deal, interviewed 2 interns for the app startup, met a developer for coffee, and signed off on a 6-figure valuation I'd helped build from my living room. And still, they stayed quiet. Until one afternoon, I got a DM request from a cousin I hadn't spoken to since the birthday party. "Hey, your mom's been crying. Says you've turned cold. Says you've changed." Changed? Maybe I had. Maybe choosing myself after decades of emotional discounting did look like rebellion to people who only respected compliance. But that night, I got the message that sealed it. A screenshot. My sister. Selling the bracelet online. Captioned, "Never worn. Too sentimental. $450 or best offer." Too sentimental. I laughed. Laughed so hard, I cried. Not from pain. From confirmation. Because when people can't destroy you, they'll try to profit off the last thing they mocked. I didn't reply. Didn't buy it back. Instead, I posted a photo of my wrist. A new bracelet. Simple, elegant. Double the price of the one she discarded. Captioned, "Piece fits better than diamonds ever did." Within minutes, DMs started flooding in. Women who had been called ungrateful, dramatic, selfish, for drawing lines where others wanted free rein. You're not cold. You're just done bleeding for people who never offered a bandage. Thank you for showing us what quiet revenge looks like. And it hit me. I wasn't just healing. I was mirroring the strength other women forgot they were allowed to have. This wasn't about a bracelet anymore. It was about legacy. And I was done letting mine be written by people who only showed up when there was something to judge or something to take. Let them sell their version of the story. I was building mine. The silence didn't last forever. It never does, not when guilt starts to itch. My mother showed up at my building unannounced. Hair done, makeup on, clutching a tray of her famous lemon bars like sugar could sweeten decades. I saw her through the peephole and hesitated, but I opened the door. Because sometimes closure doesn't come in silence. Sometimes it walks in wearing perfume and pretending it never looked away. She smiled. "I just wanted to see you. The apartment looks lovely." I stepped aside, let her in. She glanced at the walls, the furniture, the view. Everything she used to imply I'd never have unless I married rich or got lucky. Now it surrounded her. I let the silence stretch. She finally sat down and said softly, "We didn't realize how hard you were working." I raised an eyebrow. "You didn't want to know." She flinched, then nodded. "I think we underestimated you. Your sister. Well, you know how she is. She always wanted the spotlight." I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. I didn't want the spotlight. I wanted respect. But since that was too expensive for this family, I paid for my peace instead. She looked down at her hands. Your father regrets not saying something at the party. I stood.
You all said something.
Every silence, every laugh, every shrug when she belittled me. That was something. She stood too, blinking fast. We miss you. I walked her to the door. I don't miss begging to be seen. She looked like she wanted to cry. But this time, I didn't reach out to comfort her. Because I wasn't her daughter at that moment. I was her mirror.
And she didn't like what she saw.
She placed the tray down on the console. I'll go. I nodded. You already did. A long time ago. And when the door closed behind her, I didn't collapse. I cleaned up, lit a candle, took a shower, then sat on my bed, holding the new bracelet, my bracelet. Not a gift, not a peace offering, just a symbol that I could choose myself every single time and never look back. It's been 3 months since I closed that door. 3 months since I returned the lemon bars, untouched, to the front desk with a note. You can't bake over what you broke. No one came again after that. No visits. No texts. No guilt-wrapped apologies tied in excuses. Just silence. But this time it was mine. I filled my apartment with light. Plants I used to kill are now thriving on the windowsill. I hosted a dinner. Real friends only. No blood ties required. They raised glasses to me, not because I'd bought a place, but because I'd rewritten the script. My sister? She tried to rebuild her image online, posted a reel about forgiveness and family drama, tried to sell a narrative that she was the victim of jealousy, isolation, betrayal. She never mentioned my name. She didn't have to. Everyone knew. And her followers? They vanished faster than the bracelet listing. Because people can smell fake now. And she reeked of it. One day, I got a DM from a stranger. She mocked you for a $500 gift? That bracelet costs more than her entire self-worth. I'm glad you walked away. I smiled, not because it validated me, but because it reminded me, when you stop shrinking for people who can't stretch to meet you, they disappear. And you don't miss them. You just breathe better. I now wear a bracelet every day. Not for the gold, but as a reminder that kindness doesn't mean silence. That family can be the first place you lose yourself and the last place you ever find redemption. And that revenge doesn't always come with fire. Sometimes it comes with ownership of your story, your peace, your space. And the best part? They'll spend their lives trying to explain why you don't look back, while you spend yours never needing to.